The desert wind howled across the jagged terrain as crimson droplets traced a broken path behind him. Thaddeus Bell gritted his teeth, dragging his battered body toward the nearest rock outcrop. Every movement sent burning shards of pain through his ribs, where 3 bullets were lodged deep inside him. The taste of iron filled his mouth, an unmistakable sign. His time was running out. Not long before, he'd been crossing through Apache lands, riding cautiously, when 5 men emerged from nowhere, guns drawn. They wanted the price on his head. For lay dead now, but their leader's bullets had found their mark before Thaddeus finished him. His horse had bolted. His canteen was useless, pierced and leaking. The closest town lay 15 brutal miles away, across hostile desert that offered no mercy. Slumped against the rock, his breathing grew ragged as his vision began to blur. He tried to focus on the shimmering horizon, and that's when he saw it, a wooden structure silhouetted against the blistering afternoon sun. At first glance, it looked like a crude grave marker, but as his eyes narrowed, he realized it wasn't a marker at all. It was a cross, and someone was tied to it. Fighting against the pain, he squinted harder. A person, young, maybe 16, bound at the wrists, feet barely brushing the ground. Her long, dark hair veiled her face. But it wasn't the sight of her that made his stomach twist. It was the message nailed above her head. Even from a distance, he could make out the rough, dark letters scrawled across the wood. "Leave me if you're not ready." The girl slowly lifted her head, locking eyes with him. She didn't scream or cry. She simply stared, calm, almost expectant, as if she had been waiting for him specifically. A strange chill crept through Thaddeus, colder than any desert wind. In all his years, in every gunfight, every sin, every man he'd killed, nothing had felt quite like this moment. This wasn't simple cruelty. It was something deeper, a test. His conscience twisted. He thought of the lives he'd ruined, the wrong turns, the moments he could have done right but didn't. And now, when death was minutes away, life had handed him one final decision. The words on that sign burned into his thoughts. "Leave me if you're not ready." Ready for what? To die? To redeem himself? To spend his final breaths trying to save another? He attempted to rise, but his legs collapsed under him, face first into the hot sand. He groaned. Then, through the blur of pain, he saw something that froze his blood. She wasn't alone. 3 Apache warriors sat silently on horseback beneath the shade of a distant mesa, roughly 500 yards away. They had been watching him all along, motionless, waiting. Their presence told Thaddeus this wasn't random. The Apache had placed her there deliberately, and now they watched to see what he would do. Every inch forward sent new waves of agony coursing through his body. But he crawled. He refused to stop. The warriors didn't move. They allowed him to struggle closer, watching like stone-faced judges, overseeing some ancient trial. If they had wanted him dead, they could have finished him long ago. This was deliberate. At last, about 30 yards from the cross, he heard her voice, soft, almost carried away by the breeze. "My name is Ayanna. I chose this." He paused, breath-heaving. "What?" "I've volunteered," she whispered, her voice steadier now. "My people, they need to know if the white man can still choose honor over survival. This is a trial." The truth hit him like a hammer. This wasn't punishment or torture. This was ritual, a test of character, designed for whoever stumbled upon her. The message, Thaddeus gasped. "What does it mean?" Her dark eyes held his. "It means you must choose who you want to die as. You can leave me and slip away peacefully, or use what little strength you have left to save me. Either way, your time is almost up." Blood loss clouded his vision. The desert spun around him. The Apache remained statues, their rifles resting across their saddles. The sun beat mercilessly, cooking the sand beneath him. His own blood pooled into the earth. "If I try," he asked, barely able to form the words, "what happens?" Ayanna's voice was steady. "Then you'll learn if you're truly ready to sacrifice for someone else." Before he could respond, the faint sound of hoofbeats reached his ears from behind. Others were approaching. Turning his head sent searing agony through his wounds, but he managed to look. 2 riders emerged from a swirling cloud of dust. White men. Hunters. The first was tall, older, with gray hair and cold eyes. His companion was younger, jittery, his nervous glances flicking back and forth. They stopped about 50 feet away, surveying the scene. The older man dismounted, resting his hand lightly on his pistol. Well, he drawled. Looks like we've stumbled onto something interesting. The younger one, still mounted, tightened his grip on his rifle. Ain't that Bell Pike? The one with the price on his head? Pike nodded, never breaking his gaze from Thaddeus. That's him. $500, dead or alive. Judging by his state, we might not have to lift a finger. Thaddeus coughed, wet and rattling, as blood bubbled from his lips. Pike stepped closer, staying just out of reach, taking in the scene with calculating eyes. Strange setup you got here, Pike continued, gesturing to Ayanna. Apache girl strung up like that. And you crawling to her like some wounded saint. This some kind of desert sermon we're walking into. The younger man chuckled uneasily. What's that sign say, Pike? Pike shrugged. Doesn't matter. All that matters is we got ourselves a dying outlaw, a helpless native girl, and nobody around to watch what comes next. Thaddeus summoned what little breath he had left. The Apache they're watching. Pike flicked his gaze toward the mesa, spotting the 3 distant riders. Oh, I see them. Strange they haven't moved. Tells me this little scene matters more to them than spilling blood. The younger man shifted in his saddle, uneasy. Maybe we should take our bounty and leave, Pike. This feels off. Off. Pike sneered. We've tracked this bastard for weeks through hell. You want to walk away because of some Apache ritual? Drawing his pistol, Pike advanced a few more steps toward Thaddeus. Here's how this is going to go. I'm going to end your suffering, collect my reward, and then Crawford and I will take some entertainment from that little Indian girl over there. Pike sneered, raising his weapon toward Thaddeus. But before the trigger could move, Ayanna's voice sliced through the tension in the air, steady and cold. Lay a hand on me, she said, and your bloodline will scream in agony for generations. The stillness that followed was deafening. Pike's hand froze mid-motion. What did you say, girl? He growled. I am the daughter of Chief Nile of the Chiricahua. The men watching from that mesa are my brothers. This right is sacred. Interfere, and they will hunt down everyone you love, no matter how far they run. Crawford's rifle dipped slightly. Pike, maybe we should back off. Shut up. Pike barked, though Thaddeus could see hesitation creeping into his face. Every man who'd spent time near Apache land had heard the stories, not just of death, but brutal, unforgettable vengeance that haunted entire families. Seizing Pike's momentary confusion, Thaddeus, through sheer will, lunged toward Pike's legs, clutching at his ankle. Pike staggered, his shot flying harmlessly into the dry desert air. The gunshot ricocheted to the canyon walls like distant thunder. Instantly, the 3 Apache warriors started descending, their horses moving with deliberate control. You fool! Pike roared, kicking free and aiming again, but Crawford's panic shout interrupted him. Pike! They're coming! The warriors advanced slowly, rifles lower but ready, their calm more unsettling than any charge could have been. This was not recklessness, it was command. Using the distraction, Thaddeus dragged himself closer to the cross. The pain was unbearable, but surrender wasn't an option. Ayanna watched him approach, her face unreadable. You don't understand, she whispered as he collapsed at the base of the wooden post. The trial isn't about freeing me. It's about whether you're willing to try, knowing the price. Thaddeus wheezed, his bloody fingers reaching for the rawhide knots binding her feet. And what is that price? Everything. Your life. The last sliver of peace you might have found. If you cut me free, they will kill you. If you don't, you die knowing you chose yourself. Pike, regaining his nerve, stepped backward, keeping his pistol aimed at Thaddeus. Step away from her, Bell. This isn't your fight anymore. Crawford was already in his saddle. Pike, we need to go. Now! But Pike stood his ground, driven by something poisonous. No Apache girl threatens me, and no half-dead outlaw plays hero on my watch. Thaddeus's hands trembled as they worked the swollen knot, slick with sweat and blood. Each tug drained what little strength he had left. "Decide fast," Ayana whispered. "My brothers will be here in half a minute. And once they are, there's no more time." He looked at her face, then Pike's shaking hand, then the silent Apache drawing near. His entire life had led to this, a final crossroads between dying as he lived or dying for something greater. He chose. As the knot loosened under his fingers, Pike's voice rang out with venom. "Crawford, forget the damn horses. Kill them both." Crawford's rifle cracked, but a spooked horse threw the shot high, splintering the wood just inches above Ayana's head. Thaddeus felt the rawhide slip free. In that instant, Pike's gun swung down toward Thaddeus's head. Time slowed. He saw the trigger finger tightening. Crawford preparing his next shot, the Apache raising their rifles in response. And then, something unexpected surged through him. Not desperation, but a force deeper than fear. Strength, determination. With one burst of motion, Thaddeus lunged upward, his shoulder crashing into Pike's chest just as the gun fired. The bullet slammed harmlessly into the sand where his head had been. Pike tumbled backward, his skull striking a stone with a brutal crack. Crawford fired again, but Thaddeus had already rolled behind Cross, grabbing Pike's dropped pistol. Bullets snapped past him as Crawford worked the lever of his rifle. "Ayana!" Thaddeus shouted, frantically slicing through the bonds around her wrists. "When I cut you loose, run." "No," she said firmly, dropping to the ground beside him. "Not until you understand." "Understand what?" he barked, ducking as another shot whistled over his head. "This was never about saving me," she said softly. "It was about saving you." His hands froze. "What do you mean?" "You've spent 3 decades taking lives. Today was your chance to give one back, to prove that even a killer can choose redemption when it matters most." Crawford circled closer, shouting curses as his horse thundered forward. The Apache warriors pressed him behind him, their war cries rising. Thaddeus freed the last of the bindings, but something strange was happening. The searing pain in his chest had vanished. The weakness that had plagued him was gone. He glanced down, expecting to see fresh blood spreading across his shirt. But there was nothing. The holes remained, but no longer bled. His breathing was steady. His limbs were strong. "How?" he whispered. Ayana smiled for the first time. "Because you chose to give, not take. And sometimes that choice rewrites everything." Another shot cracked behind them, but Thaddeus barely flinched. He was steady, like a man reborn. Suddenly, Crawford appeared from around the cross, rifle aimed square at Ayana's chest. "Move, or I put a hole through her," he snarled, desperation breaking his voice. His whole body trembled, sweat dripping despite the dry heat. Raising Pike's pistol, Thaddeus spoke softly. "Easy, son. You don't want to do this." "The hell I don't." Crawford barked. "Pike's dead. The Apache are closing in. I'm not leaving without that bounty." The Apache riders had now stopped 100 yards away, watching in perfect stillness, giving no sign of intervening, waiting to see how the confrontation would resolve. "Look around you," Thaddeus said quietly. "You're standing on sacred Apache land. You're outnumbered. Your partner's dead. Walk away while you can." Crawford's eyes darted between them, panic swirling beneath his bravado. "Sacred ground? This is nothing but sand and rock." Ayana stepped forward, her voice carrying an eerie calm. "This is where my people test the souls of men. Here, we discover who chooses honor and who succumbs to fear. I'm not scared of your superstitions." Crawford spat, but his rifle wavered. "You should be," Thaddeus said, stepping forward, "because you're failing the trial." And then the desert itself seemed to transform. The blinding sunlight softened to a warm amber glow. The wind stirred, carrying strange whispers between the rocks. The air felt thick, almost alive. Crawford's face blanched as his eyes darted wildly. What is this?" "You're seeing the truth of this place," Ayana answered softly. "The truth few are ever allowed to witness." "This place," Ayana said softly, "is a doorway between the world you know and one you cannot yet see. Here, the decisions made don't just shape this life, but echo into forever. Thaddeus felt the weight of her words settle deep inside him. The desert no longer felt like barren land. It pulsed with something ancient and watchful. Here, under the open sky, a man's very soul stood naked before powers far greater than his understanding. Thaddeus fixed his eyes on Crawford, his voice steady, carrying strength he hadn't felt in years. You stand at a crossroads, boy. You can pull that trigger and curse your soul, or you can step away and find a road that doesn't begin with death. The young man's face was pale, his breathing shallow, panic flickering behind his eyes. I need the money, Crawford stammered. My sister's sick. The doctors, they need be paid. Then find honest work, Thaddeus replied, his tone unwavering. This isn't the way. This path only ends in ruin. The barrel of Crawford's rifle dipped slightly as he struggled with his conscience. All around them, the world continued its quiet transformation. The sun's light turned golden. The wind whispered like distant voices, and something unseen filled the air with silent judgment. I don't even understand what's happening, Crawford whispered, his voice trembling. Neither did I, Thaddeus said. But sometimes understanding isn't the first step. The choice comes first. For a long, breathless moment, the only sound was the strange music of the wind swirling through the stones. And then Crawford made his choice. The rifle slipped from his hands, hitting the sand with a dull thud. He backed away, his hands raised, his voice shaking. I can't do it. Whatever this is, I don't want any part of it. As soon as his weapon hit the ground, the desert seemed to breathe. The golden glow brightened, and the wind carried faint drum beats that seemed to rise from the earth itself. Thaddeus lowered his pistol, a quiet relief washing over him. You chose well, son. Crawford stumbled toward his horse, his steps clumsy with fear. Keep your bounty, Bell. Keep it all. I'm leaving before this place swallows me whole. Mounting his horse, Crawford kicked it into a full gallop, disappearing into the fading daylight. The Apache warriors, who had watched everything in silence, now advanced slowly with lowered weapons. The eldest among them, a man with hair streaked silver by time, dismounted and approached. He spoke in his native language, his words filled with pride and reverence. Ayana translated softly. He says the trial is over. Both of them. Both? Thaddeus asked. She nodded, her eyes reflecting the strange golden light. Everyone who finds me here faces the same decision. Few choose correctly. Even fewer inspire others to choose as well. The elder warrior stepped closer, placing a weathered hand on Thaddeus's shoulder. In heavily accented English, he said, You were dead, white man. A bullet pierced your heart. Your blood soaked the sacred ground. But you chose to sacrifice yourself for another. That choice gave you life again. This is strong medicine. Thaddeus glanced at his chest, still amazed by the absence of pain or blood. I don't understand how this is even possible. Some truths aren't meant to be explained. Only lived, the warrior said. You've been given a second chance. What you do with it is your burden now. The question lingered in the air like smoke from a ceremonial fire. Thaddeus thought back to his past. 30 years drenched in violence, pain, and bloodshed. But then he remembered crawling toward that cross, knowing he might die, yet choosing to save her anyway. I want to change, he whispered. I want to build instead of destroy. The Apache warrior smiled, the deep lines in his face softening. Then you've learned the true purpose of this place. It was never about rescuing her. It was about rescuing yourself. Ayana stepped forward and untied a piece of parchment from the cross. She handed it to Thaddeus. As his eyes moved across the paper, he saw that the words had shifted. They were no longer written in the rough charcoal as before. Now, as if seared into fibers by some unseen flame, the message read, Welcome home, protector of innocent. He read the words again, their weight anchoring deep into his soul, like stones settling in a riverbed. Home, he asked, glancing around at the transformed land. The elder Apache motioned toward the horizon, where the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant shades of red and gold. This land has waited for someone like you, someone who knows true strength lies in protecting, not harming. Ayana stood beside Thaddeus, her presence calm and radiant. For generations, My people have guarded this place. But times are changing. We need allies, men who can walk between our world and theirs, who can heal instead of destroy. Thaddeus felt something inside shift, like broken pieces finally finding their place. He had spent 3 decades searching for purpose among blood and violence. Now, in this place between worlds, he finally saw what all of it had led to. But what of my past? He asked quietly. The lives I've taken? The sins I carry? The elder placed both hands firmly on his shoulders. A man is not chained to who he was, only to who he chooses to be. You died to save another. That death cleansed your old life. What you do now is your true beginning. The golden light began to fade as the sun dipped behind the hills, but the peace within Thaddeus only grew stronger. The 3 Apache warriors mounted up to depart, but before they left, the elder turned back to him one last time. More will come, he said. Lost souls, broken people. Some will deserve help, others will not. You will know the difference. With that, the Apache rode into the falling night, their silhouettes fading into the growing shadows. Ayanna beckoned him toward a narrow canyon he hadn't noticed before. Come, she said softly. Let me show you your new home. They walked together into the canyon. Their footsteps echoed gently between the rock walls. Here, hidden springs fed patches of vibrant green, and caves carved long ago had been shaped into comfortable dwellings. This is where you'll live now, Ayanna explained. Here you'll wait for those who seek guidance, protection, or a chance to choose differently. Thaddeus paused and looked back toward the distant cross, now nearly lost in the twilight. Will I see you again? Ayanna smiled, her form shimmering slightly like heat rising off desert stone. I'll always be near when the innocent need protection. Sometimes you'll see me. Sometimes you won't. But you'll know when it's time. As the final rays of sunlight disappeared, Thaddeus knew without a doubt that his old life had ended at the base of that cross. The man he had been, Thaddeus Bell the Killer, was gone, buried with the blood and dust of his past. What remained was something new. A guardian, a protector, a man standing between 2 worlds. He thought of Crawford galloping into whatever uncertain future awaited him, carrying the memory of his choice made on sacred ground. He thought of others who would arrive in time, each facing their own moment of truth. And for the first time in 30 years, Thaddeus Bell smiled, a true smile, filled with peace.